Okay, make yourselves comfortable. Good. Absolutely. So, Misha, she's going to go first, and then you.
Yeah.
Hi everyone, welcome back to those of you who were here yesterday for the first session of Lama's teachings, and welcome new to those who have just arrived today. We're very happy to have Lama Lena back to teach us here in the Netherlands. This is actually her 7th year visiting the Netherlands, so we're always very happy to welcome her. And Lama Lena this year is teaching on Refuge, Bodhicitta and Emptiness from a Dzogchen perspective. So we'll continue with those teachings today, and we will have a break, lunch break, approximately 1 o'clock-ish or thereabouts, before we then begin the afternoon session. And just in terms of housekeeping, at the entrance you'll find just some prayer booklets for opening and closing prayer, so please feel free to take one of those. We also have tea, coffee and water over here in my far left here. And you also have the opportunity to offer dana to some of the organizational expenses and Nunnery project also over here to the left as well. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it in terms of housekeeping. Oh, also we have just a walkway here just for people to get in and out. And this teaching is also being live streamed to a global audience as well, so camera is to the back and it's visible here also. And
That's actually Central Tibetan politeness.
And I think that is it. Thank you, Lama.
Thank you. And Misha, you had some gifts for a few people.
Yes.
Do that now before we all forget about it.
Okay. As this year we have our, next to the sponsorship program for the nuns and monks in peme, we are also building this nice little monastery for them, a nunnery, so that the nuns can stay in their nunnery and they don't have to pay so much rent, so they have more time to do their practice.
This is the Nunnery nuns down from Kanur. They come down because it's 30 feet of snow in the winter. They often go up to the high caves and make retreats all summer. They used to work on the roads all summer, breaking rocks, and then come down and retreat in the winter and take teachings. But we got them sponsors, and now to the point where they're building a place to live, a nunnery, down here. Many of them are starting to get too old to go up and do the caves in Kanur because they're not like easy caves like we have above Solpema. They're like the caves above Solpema were 50 years ago. No water, no nothing, no road. So at a certain age that becomes problematic. Keep going.
Yeah, okay. So I wanted to, there were a few people who were already sponsored for this lovely nunnery, and the nuns, they make the bracelets for you and bless them.
Some people have made some beautiful offerings for them to build the nunnery. He's got pictures, you can catch him later. They've got the walls up, they got the living room to live in up. There's two groups of nuns up in Solpema. There's the group up in the caves, and this group that, because the caves are full, are building this little nunnery off in the wilds of the mountain, up on the backside, where they could get some cheap land. And there's 3 monasteries with monks.
So I think one more bracelets for the sponsoring of the nunnery. We did this. And this is
These were made by them to give to.
Really?
They said, give these to my spouse. He's looking for anybody who's involved. They're friendship bracelets. You see all the teenage girls exchanging them and the boys exchanging them. And the nuns, it's a Tibetan thing. I go up there about every year, usually for Losar. I used to go in the quiet times, which is the fall, but I ended up with other commitments during those times. So at least I go for Losar to see all my old friends. This is my home Sangha, where I grew up, the ones that taught me Tibetan, including that my door key was called a penis. Tibetan humor is like that. I have a little cave up there. You're all welcome to visit, but most of my time when I'm up there is for the Tibetans and my Tibetan students. And I don't teach Westerners and Tibetans at the same time, if I can possibly help it, because they have different requirements. You guys all want to know why and how. How does it work? Tibetans want it to feel familiar and safe, so they want a lot of quotations from things they've already heard. You get bored if I quote old stuff too much. You always want a new teaching. If I want to give you an old teaching that you didn't get, I got to sandwich it in between two new teachings and not tell you it's coming. For the Tibetans, if I want to give them a new teaching they didn't get yet, opposite, I got to sandwich it between two old teachings and not tell them it's coming. So very difficult to teach both together. I think Situ Rinpoche has refused to do so. He even won't let Westerners with fluent Tibetan into his teachings to Tibetans. They won't like it. It doesn't suit them. And in fact, what we're doing today, I thought I would go into the 37 practices of a Bodhisattva. There are some things in there that need to be modified slightly for Westerners, or they will take it wrong. They'll try to fake it. They'll try to pretend they have higher realizations than they really do and live up to it and get themselves into a terrible mess. And then go get passive-aggressive about it. So, very different styles of teachings, but if you want to come out there and really see this culture, it's not a big airfare from Europe. Fly into Delhi and get one of us who's up there to send your car. Do not take a driver from Delhi. They fall off the mountains. They have no idea how to pull in the sides of their car to pass the other car on these mountain roads. And this is a siddha that all mountain drivers have. So there's your invitation if you want to come over. I'm hoping to be there for Losar and a while after. I'll probably get there in mid-February and stay through March, because it was awfully cold in beginning February and froze my took us off, yeah. Okay, so enough just nattering to make sure we've all finally turned up here, who are going to. All teachings begin with Refuge and Bodhicitta. Refuge and Bodhicitta come together as Guru Yoga. Therefore, I do my beginning of all teachings, Refuge and Bodhicitta, as the lineage prayer. Chuku kundu zongbo gompo yi, dorji sempa garab dorji dang, Cherishing bardu shin lab de namabzan tata tusum chi, Dzogchen jupe lamala solo deb, Ergin pema junila solo deb, Dharmakaya primordial Buddha, and Vajrasattva and Garab Dorji and Saraha until the end of time. All of these together, the lineage of the Dzogchen Lamas. From Urgyen Pema Dorji, from Guru Rinpoche. To this I pray. You've all been asking me to tell you what it means in English. Dorji Chang Chitilo Narodang Marpa Mila Gompo Tsatapa Na Pupadang Palden Drupa Suk Kagyulama Namla Solwa Deb. This is Primordial Buddha Dorji Chang, Tilopa, Naropa, and Marpa, Milarepa, Gompopa, and all the others who are the lineage of the Drupa Kargyu line. To the Kargyu Lamas of the lineage I pray. After this, I do other lineages that I have had. You should do those lineages which you have had. For instance, your Celtic lineage, if you're over there somewhere. This is where it goes. O Chen Lama Namla Solwa Deb. Dru Chen Lama Namla Solwa Deb. Kaginwari Lama Namla Solwa Deb. Shakya Lama Namla Solwa Deb. Diandu Dang Yundrun Lama Namla Solwa Deb. I included there of the lineages that I have studied for extended periods of time, the Gelugpa, the Druid, the Crow line of the Cherokee, the Shakyapa, and the Bon. Those are the lineages that I feel I have studied long enough to have the feel of. Pa kondu zhongdang yermi pa gongarab dorji jintrag pa jetidang nisume pai pa lamanam chi tentir chong. All of this together without exception with Garab Dorji and everything else. In my heart, in non-duality, with all these together together are. That's approximately what it says. This is the prayer I do. I haven't translated this properly to Pukka Tibetan yet. It's never exact. Sometime I'll get a scholar to do it for me. Where did I put it? Well, this is the 37 practices of the Bodhisattvas. I believe it was originally written by the 14th Dalai Lama. Homage to Lakshawa. I pay homage constantly through my three doors to my supreme teacher and protector Chenrezig, who while seeing all phenomena, lack coming and going, makes single-minded effort for the good of living beings. I promised you a sadhana. Chenrezig, this is the tantric form of open-hearted, great-heartedness, ninji. Bodhicitta, the gone beyond of consciousness. Stop calling it compassion. That's inji. That's got pity in it. There's no pity here. So want you to remember back to a simple love, your baby if you had one, right in that sweet spot where they're sleeping through the night but not getting into everything yet. A pet, a kitten. Your kitten, as a little baby, purring on your heart chakra, reaches up and bats at your face. Or maybe if you remember it, how you felt while you were still nursing with your mama towards her. Look through your life and find a simple, unequivocal love, not the complex love of your current lover. That's got stuff in it. Something simpler. I want you to feel it. Feel it in your heart. Feel it in your body. In your heart chakra, which is under the xiphoid process, not up here where some people think it is. It's a little bit lower, right about here, closer to solar plexus, top of the solar plexus. Feel it there. Now, in that place is a 1,000-petaled lotus bud. See it. Imagine it. I want you to water that that lotus bud. Why is it? Because it's closed. It's closed because of middle school. Remember middle school? That shit. So you close your heart so you won't get kicked in it anymore. We're very sensitive at those ages. That's where most people shut it down. I want you to water it with that feeling of simple love. As you water it, it blooms. The petals open. As they open, you see that in the middle of the lotus, around the stamens, there is a mantra in rainbow colors. Om Mani Padme Hum. And in the center of the mantra is a white tree. It's white with a little bit of a reddish tint, but not pink. As the mantra goes around and your lotus blooms from watering with the sensation of love, the petals elongate into rays of light. The rays of light are white because the turning all the colors of the rainbow together become pure white, clear light. And that's the light that goes out as the petals, as the rays at the ends of 1,000 petals. And it touches 1,000 hearts of other living beings. The lotus bud in their hearts. And those lotuses watered by the light of your lotus with love also bloom and reach out to 1,000 living beings, touching their hearts that bloom, are watered by love and bloom, and reach out to 1,000 living beings. And so on, it proliferates while we say the mantra, until all of the universe, including all of the past, all of the future, and all of the present, is utterly so filled with rays of light, reaching to the bacteria on your skin, reaching to the bacteria in your gut and everybody else's bacteria. Look how many. Multiplying by thousands every time. Until there is nothing left in the whole universe but pure, clear, transparent light, which is infinite and open. mani padme Om mani padme Om mani mami mani 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 Om mani mami Feel it? The utter interconnectedness of all life, of all Buddhas, which simply arise of all sentient beings in this interconnection. Somewhere in the three times, past, present, or future, all living beings are all Buddhas. And when you do prayer to the lineage, you are joining yourself with that all Buddhas of the four times. Kuntu Zangpo, Kuntu Zangmo. Personify that. There's no separation, really. That doesn't deny individuals' experience, but it denies the solitude of that. In this realization, if you do this mantra regularly, you cannot feel loneliness. How could you be lonely when you're utterly interconnected with all life throughout the three times? Cannot feel hatred. How can you hate something of which you are made, which creates you? Now, take that away. Westerners are perfectly capable of hating themselves. Which is considered in Tibetan a demonic possession. This is not, we are all one, nor is it that we are all separate. You've heard Buddhism called the middle way. It is of some importance that the middle way be honored, recognized, taken to heart. So every time you find an extreme, an either or, we are all separate or we are all one. Take away the or and stick in an and. This is the power of and. Avoid the extremes. Find the middle. Any questions on that sadhana? Thousand-arm Chenrezig. Given to me by Lama Tukten-Yeshi. Yes?
2 years ago, you gave the same practice, and I meditate once in the 2 weeks in Wildervank, where you also gave teachings, and together with a monk, and I translated this practice, and we do it once in 2 weeks. But I add the 4 kampopas before it, the precious moon birth.
Great.
Okay, so yeah.
This can be taken to a greater depth if you have the initiation. The way I've given it requires no wrong. You can also do it by visualizing Chenrezig in your heart and the lotus in his heart, or her heart, because Chenrezig is non-binary. Their heart, sorry. I gotta get my acronyms right. However, I didn't want to make it complex for people who aren't accustomed to visualizing. So you can do it with just the lotus and the seed syllable, since Chenrezig is the seed syllable free. But if you do visualize the archetype Chenrezig, it's the 1,000-arm form with 11 heads.
We do it in the way teach us that with this lotus it opens and then first the neighbors and
Yeah, it goes all the way out.
All the way out. But there's also
you can reach through time as well with it.
Yeah,
in fact, in this coming retreat in Germany, we'll be talking about time travel and how you use it for post-traumatic stress disorder from your childhood. Using this practice.
But you stressed several times that language is very important. So I translated in Dutch. So I did my best.
Good.
Okay.
We're all just doing our best.
Okay.
Here too. No, it's an excellent practice. If you do it, you will not fall into nihilism, which is the Western favorite accident. Tibetans fall into reifying, Westerners fall into nihilism. Same shit. Extremes. Attached to your loved ones, you're stirred up like water. Hating your enemies, you burn like fire. In the darkness of confusion, you forget what to adopt and what to discard. You forget what you're doing as far as practice goes. Give up your homeland. This is the practice of bodhisattvas. There's 2 ways to do this. For the young, get out of here. Go on, just leave. If you are not yet married, if you do not yet have children, if you're not in a committed relationship, go. You need to get away from your childhood and all the forms and conditioning imposed on you by it. However, if you're older, you've got a career going. This is like between high school and college or after college, after you've done a few jobs, but nothing stuck. Then you just go. There's lots of places to go. Throw a dart at a map. Now, if you're older and you've established a life, you've got a family, your parents are aging, you can't do that. Usually your parents are young enough to do without you for a few years when you're still young in college. If you're older, take a sabbatical, start arranging it. Plan to take a year off. A sabbatical. Now, some of you are close enough to retirement that a sabbatical isn't really worth it. Plan upon retirement, to leave for a year. If your kids are grown or past college by now, they'll be fine for a year without you. If your parents have moved on to their next life or no longer recognize you, they'll be fine. Look at what your life gives for the opportunity to get away somewhere else. Now, maybe you already did this when you were young and you don't have to do it again. Are you still on your sabbatical? But you got your year. She did good. Took a year right in the middle of her career and went wandering. Went to a lot of places. Got a feel for who she was without family and culture and everything else telling her who she's supposed to be. I highly recommend it.
Going with the family. Because I'm going in 2 weeks. We're taking the kid from school.
Okay, how far and how long?
1 year all around the world.
How many of you?
3.
That'll work.
And my partner's old politician.
That'll work. How old's your kid?
9.
Perfect age. For that.
Also for school. Take him off school for a year.
Yeah. They'll recover from whatever they miss in school and they'll learn so much.
Actually, he will learn much more.
And they're not yet going to be so rebellious that they up and disappear on you in some weird place. That doesn't come until after 11 or 12 when the hormones start going. You got the perfect time. Yes.
What is the name of
Chenrezig mantra, Om Mani Padme Hum. Yeah, the Hri is the seed syllable in the middle. My habit is to say it with the mantra. But some people just say Om Mani Padme Hum. You can do it either way. It means, oh, the jewel in the center of the lotus. Which means, Om means realm of form. Mani is the jewel. Padme is lotus. Jewel means most precious. It's a euphemism for whatever is most precious, because jewels are usually worth more than gold. So whatever is precious, that stands as a euphemism. And Dharmakaya, all 3 jewels. A lotus does not grow where there is not muck at the bottom of the pond. It will not grow in a clean pond that has no muck. There's muck to nourish. It's lots of decaying. Above the dirty water. And it has something about it that if you splash water on the petals, it runs off. It won't stick. That water repellent thing that they keep trying to invent for our clothes and never quite get right, well, it has it. So it is the symbol of the union of nirvana and samsara, nourished by the muck, primordial purity, the innate unfuck-upableness of your Buddha nature, whatever you do. Hung is mind. In all of form, the most precious thing is the union of samsara and nirvana, the root of mind itself. Now, there are other translations. That's mine. Each word has depths within it of meaning. Tibetan stuff is a fractal. By avoiding bad objects and disturbing emotions, by avoiding bad objects, disturbing emotions gradually decrease. Without distraction, virtuous activities naturally increase. With clarity of mind and conviction in the teachings arises. Cultivate seclusion. This is the practice of Bodhicitta. What is that when you get it home around here? Simplify your life. Relegate your social media between certain hours. Not all the time. Find out what is your biggest distraction and see if you can simplify it or contain it. Where do I most enjoy doing social media? In a cafe? In my home? Only in this one place will I do social media because that's the best of it. That's where I get the most pleasure bang for my buck. Don't try, okay, this is in Sutrayana, which is based on renunciation. In Tantrayana, by accepting, it would say, in Tantra, by accepting without grasping negative occurrences, disturbing emotions can be transformed. But still, that's without distraction. It's not virtue, it's open-minded relaxation. Digpa is tight, closed, stressy. When you say virtue and sin as a translation for these two words, you're gonna fall into what the Catholics told you was virtue and sin, or what the shaman told you, or what the mullah told you, or what the rabbi told you. You're not going to see it pure as it is here. You're going to have an overlay of whatever religion you grew up in. Unless you were really lucky and grew up as a secular humanist, but that's pretty rare. So, with clarity, when you actually see what the teachings are saying, it is going to be extremely useful to simplify your life. Look, the bigger house you have, the more housework it gives you. And the more mortgage, so you gotta work harder, whether you're the money earner, or you're the housekeeper, or you two have it divided in that way and you're doing both. Get a smaller place. The more clothes you have, the more laundry you have to do. Clean out your closet. The more toys you have, playing with them becomes work. Get rid of the toys that aren't fun anymore. That's what this is talking about. You can still be a householder. You don't have to go into a hermitage. But we spend so much time trying to entertain ourselves and end up simply making a to-do list about caring for and paying for all those entertainments. Don't do that. It's not worth it. Those you love, loved ones who have long kept company will part. Wealth created with difficulty will be left behind. Consciousness, the guest, will leave the guest house of the body. You're gonna die. Everybody dies. There is nobody around here who doesn't die. There is nobody in history who didn't die. Well, they say there are some Chinese immortals up in the mountains doing Qigong. But by the time you reach 100 with that method of maintaining your life, yeah, I learned it. The thing is, you're doing it 24/7 to stay alive by the time you hit 115 or so. So that's all you do is Qigong. You're still alive, you're not dead, but you can't go out for a cup of tea, you can't hang out with a friend and have a beer. Yeah, this is life. So it's much simpler. Don't try to prolong it, it's possible, you can do it. The instructions are available. But to what? Because the more you are old that you're using these methods of Qigong, of energy work, solemn practice, to prolong your life, the more hours you have to put into it every day. Yeah, sure, I could look like I'm 30 and feel like I'm 30. Sometimes I think it might be worth it, but at 70, that's 6 to 12 hours a day of practice, of that particular practice, not this practice. I'd rather get a good night's sleep, guys. So be aware of impermanence and death. Everything you've ever gotten, you will lose. Everything you've ever accomplished will wear off. What's your PhD worth once you're senile? And you don't even remember your name. If you live long enough, it's coming. When you keep company with those you love, your 3 poisons increase. That's desire, aversion, and schmutz. Marigpa. Not ignorance, it's not lack of knowledge. It's the false beliefs that cause you to ignore the truth. Your activities of hearing, thinking, and meditating decline. You don't have time. And they make you lose your love and compassion. The last fight you had with your husband or wife, partner. Can you start remembering the last fight? Did you feel love for all sentient beings while you were doing that? You see, love is problematic. Give up friends that upset you. If you have lovers or friends in which most of what you do is fight or argue, in which you spend most of your time pissed off at them, it's not worth it, let them go. Or learn to transform your anger, like the peacock that eats poisonous plants and grows the multicolored feathers. Remember, this is Sutrayana. Tantrayana, you transform the poison. In Dzogchen, you release the poison into its natural state. But we're getting into more Dzogchen tomorrow. This is a nice set of practices as long as you know where to salt it. As long as you adapt it to your lifestyle and don't try to do something you can't. Because if you try to do something you can't as far as Bodhicitta activities go, you're going to resent it. Don't give the beggar your grocery money. Sure, it's a kind thing and you get a lot of gewa, but you're going to regret it when you're really hungry. And that's going to wipe out all the gewa that you created. Better to give the beggar what you can. Even, it's okay to eat rice and beans, but don't leave yourself hangry. Y'all know the word hangry? It's that feeling you get when you haven't eaten for too long, your blood sugar dumps and you want to kill somebody. You don't even know that you're hungry anymore. Very bad state to be in. Even lamas get it. I've seen my own teacher hangry a few times. Then you just duck and hope he eats something soon. I strongly recommend you do the same with me. When you rely on the three jewels, your faults come to an end, and your good qualities grow like the waxing moon. Cherish the spiritual teacher, even more than your own body. This is the practice of the Bodhisattvas. Don't be stupid with this. Do you remember when Naropa jumped off the building? Tilopa didn't say to him, I want you to jump off the building now, Naropa. He was looking around saying, you know, if I had a really good student, he would jump off this building if I said so. And Naropa looks around and he wants to be a really good student, so he jumps. Tilopa finds him down on the ground, half broken up, a mess. He says, what are you doing there, boy? Naropa said, I'm not doing anything, I'm a corpse. That's how he got the name, Naropa. I am being a corpse. One time I was on a roof with my own teacher. And he turned to me. We'd been doing some teachings. This was in some place like Milwaukee, Midwest. And we just happened to be on a roof because we'd been doing a teaching on a roof and everybody had left and we were just enjoying the view while lunch got made ready. And he turned to me and said, if I told you to jump off this roof, would you do it? What would you do? Not would you do it, but what would you do? And I thought for a minute and I said, well, Tibet's not my first language. First thing I'd do is check in with you and make you repeat yourself in a couple of different sets of words to make sure that I hadn't misunderstood the language. And I got the grammar right and it was an imperative statement. And what if it turned out you had? And I'm like, well, I'd probably then ask you if you wanted me to physically do it or metaphorically do it. And he looked at me and said, And I said, what if you determined after asking me that I wanted you to physically do it? And I said, well, in that case, I guess I probably would. And then I turned to him and said, are you asking me to jump off the roof? He said, no! I'm checking you out to see if you're safe to teach. He asked. Okay?
Yeah.
You hear that? No throwing away your body for the sake of the teacher when it's the last thing they ever wanted was another body. Dead. To be disposed of somewhere. Okay? Yes, if they're in hospital and you're a match, give them a kidney. Yes, if the blood type matches, give your blood. I've done that. It freaked out the Tibetans when I gave a dying nun my blood. I can make more. She's still alive. And And that was 50, 60 years ago. Do you understand that one? That we just did? Bound himself in the cycle of existence. What worldly God can give you protection? Therefore, when you seek refuge, take refuge in the three jewels, which will not betray you. This is the practice of a bodhisattva. There are many gods in this world. There are many things which translate as devils. They're all different of different levels. Some people use the word God to mean the three jewels in their own language. As long as you don't personify it, you might be able to get away with that. But be careful of mixing your religion with this. I don't say don't do it. I say be very careful in the doing of it. Respect the gods. They're quite real. If you are under contract with one of them, keep your contract. If you have a relationship to one of them, you may keep your relationship. That's not a problem. Putting it as the end-all and be-all of everything is not the same as having a relationship with certain gods. I've had relationships with worldly gods. I won't call them friendships exactly. Due to the different levels of power, it's really hard to do a pure friendship, but as close as we could get with Kalima, one of the local land gods where I live in India, and with other things that are off-plane. Yeah, and with the occasional demon, but one does that carefully. Very carefully. Just be very careful if you're choosing to mix religions. Don't take of courses as of course. Do it consciously and carefully. The Sadhguru said that all the unbearable suffering of bad rebirths is the fruit of wrongdoing. Therefore, even at the cost of your life, never do wrong. This is the practice of the Bodhisattvas. Sweet. Well, I certainly can't walk through a day without creating some digpa. Can you? Gee, that's what Vajrasattva's for. You take a shower to get the day off you in the evening. I often do if the weather's been hot or if I have access to a shower. You know, I travel a lot, I don't always have what I need. The same way you take a shower, run some Vajrasattva, get the digpa off. It's such a simple and easy practice in the Tantras. And you know during the day you will have cursed somebody out in traffic, although I've trained myself out of that one. I do wish he gets where he's going. Oh dear, I hope he makes it on time. As you know, shoom, 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 shoom. But there's always something. So you're not going to manage to create no digpa, no stress in your mandala. no tightening, no upsetness in others. You park in a legal parking spot, you leave somewhere during the day, somebody's going to be upset that they didn't get to park on that street. Digpa. You've created an upsetness, then they're going to go kick the dog or yell at their wife, and blah, blah, blah. And Digpa's coming along from an action which you did with no negative motivation, so it's not a complete Digpa. It's one of those little incomplete digpas that'll simply cause you to miss a parking spot later. You know, the little incomplete things manifest in this life as minor occurrences. Or you're parking and you hit the curb and have to do it again. These are the kind of results you get from little complete digpas. Whereas if a digpa is complete, it has the motivation you wish to harm. Yeah, you're pissed off enough, it will have. Let's say you're fighting with your partner and you're really pissed and you're going to say a word that harms on purpose because you really want them to feel as bad as you do. Ever do that? Okay. So there's the action, the saying the word. You didn't refrain when you noticed. You said it. There's the intending to do it, and when they start crying, there's a moment of it worked. Ah. Oh dear, I went too far. But that's a complete one. That can take a whole incarnation to resolve itself. Where maybe you're born to parents that fight continuously with you, or for whatever reason. So minimize your daily digpa. Create as much gewa as you can to overcome it. Gewa of body, speech, and mind. Do you know what those are? Gewa of body is to say, just give something away. Make somebody happy by giving them the scarf you're wearing because you know that they like it. I did that in a pub the other day. I was wearing a handmade Himalaya, hand-woven and fancy scarf, and there was some guy who knew me from YouTube. And so we were having a beer together, and when he left, I gave him my scarf. And it really made him happy. That's a piece of gewa. I did it to make him happy. Because happiness is good, and he'll spread it now. Because when you're happy, you do things to make others happy. And it proliferates, just like the light ray from your heart in Chenrezig. Gewa of speech, so give somebody a compliment. Say something nice. Tell them they did it well. Yeah, what you said yesterday when I asked you to take a turn, that was so right on. I really appreciate it. Now see, didn't that probably make her feel happy? Of mind is to give people the benefit of the doubt. So you're all looking at me. Am I mad at you or am I trying not to fart? Take the preferred interpretation. I've had someone who thought I was mad at them for years and never asked because I had had beans the night before. The last time we met in a big teaching, and apparently I glowered at her. I didn't want to let off a big one in the middle of a teaching. So, really, take the better opinion of the two you could have of a given person in a given moment. When somebody beats you out for the parking spot that you were in line for, you know, maybe they've got a sick kid at home and they really just need to park here, get in there, get out and do the thing. Even if it looks like some damn guy in a toupee that's having a midlife crisis, don't be sure. Do you see what I'm pointing at here? In all of these, you practice these to the best of your ability without lying to yourself about your ability. Like dew on the tip of a grass. Pleasures of the three worlds last only a while and then vanish. You cannot keep any of it, youth, beauty. Gravity wins. Aspire to the never-changing supreme state of liberation. This is the practice of the Bodhisattvas. Stillness in Mahamudra. Dharmakaya nature of mind in Mahā'ati. Different terms, same thing. What I showed you yesterday, that infinite open awareness, which is your mind, when it is not focused on the things that move, such as thoughts, feelings, and sensations. There is that which does not come and go. We call it unborn, undying. It is where the thoughts, the feelings, and the sensations dance, where phenomena arises and vanishes. That. Chuku. Rang Sem Ngo Chukusha. Rest yourself in your own mind's Dharmakaya nature. That you can trust, because every time you check it out, it's the same. It never goes away. It doesn't come when you look at it. It's always been there. You're just so busy in all your life looking in front and behind, to the left and the right, above and below, that you never look in another direction. And this is in another direction. When your mothers who've loved you since time without beginning are suffering, what is the use of your own happiness? Therefore, to free, limitless living beings, develop the altruistic intention. This is the practice of the Bodhisattvas. You have lived life upon life from beginningless times. Next week retreat, we'll work on remembering that. But no time, that takes a week at least. There's other methods. You can get a hypnosis to bring out a few of them. But it's not enough just to remember back and back and back a few thousand years. It's infinite. Go all the way back. And you will find that you have given birth to every sentient being in the whole world. You have been their mother. You have been their lover at another time, in another personality. Not you, the personality. Just as you didn't have this personality when you were 14, you also don't have the one you had when you were a previous life. And yet, just as there is a continuity of cause and effect between age 14 and now, the choices you made then led to the things that changed you and matured you to become who you are now, including the things that just seemed like a good idea at the time. So, in those infinite lives, every living being has been your mother and your child. The mosquito that tormented you last night was once your kitten, your baby. Think about this. In all the interconnected, interpenetrating, interpatterns throughout time and space, everything is interrelated. Sometimes, for a series of lives, you've been less adventurous and born in the same tribe again and again. Sometimes, for a series of lives, you've gone planet hopping, world hopping. You've been male and you've been female, and assorted bits in between. You've been among species that don't have male and female, or like a certain fish change halfway through the life. You've been so many things, and loved so many others as such. Even the swans mate for life. Wish your children well, and look after your mothers. All of them. All suffering comes from attempting to grasp your own happiness. Perfect Buddhas are born from the thought to help others. Your survival reflex will need to be overcome in order to release your superstitions about who you are. You follow me on this? So the only thing that will counteract survival reflex is love. Who jumps in front of buses to save a child? The mother. If you have children, you would think nothing about doing something like that to save them. It's instinctive. You might do it for your lover. Maybe. All living beings have been your baby. Don't just try to look after the ones this time. Therefore, to free limitless beings, develop the altruistic intention. This is the practice of the Bodhisattvas. No, it doesn't start out complete. You work at it. You build it by remembering interpenetrating interactivity throughout time and space. Sometimes you have an experience, like meeting one of your children from a recent life, in who they are now. And sometimes you're urged to do something for them and can't, due to the circumstances they are born in. Every single one of them, every stray dog, every pigeon in the sky that you're trying to keep off your windowsill because they shit. All of this, your babies. It's important to remember. All suffering comes from the wish of your own happiness. Suffering comes from self-focusedness. I want you all to remember the last time you were depressed. You've all had bouts of depression. Everybody does, even if it's only for a few days at a time due to something bad happening to you. Remember to that feeling. What were you thinking about? You were thinking about you. What you weren't getting done. What you had done wrong. What you were incapable of. How bad and awful you were. When you're depressed, at least when I feel depressed, I'm very self-focused in that. Depressed is a big ego trip. When you're depressed, Tibetans have a meditative cure for depression. Have you caught it when I've taught it before? It's very simple. Isu Yurang. You have to take the meds with it, because you can't do it if you're so depressed that you need meds. So it's not instead of the meds, it goes with the meds. You can try with discussion with your prescribing psychiatrist to taper off the meds after you've done the practice for at least 6 months. What's the practice? 1, leave your house 3 times a day. You won't do that if you're not on the meds. You can't. Go out and find a sentient being that's happy. A dog being walked by their person is often ecstatic on that little bit. If it's rained and the sun came out, a bird can be ecstatic because the sun came out. Find a happy sentient being. Rejoice in their happiness. Think to yourself, how wonderful that being is experiencing such a delightful happiness right now. May all sentient beings in the universe be happy like this. You are turning your attention outwards. Do it 3 times, 3 separate sentient beings. Then you can go home, do it again later in the day. Do it on the way to work, do it on the way home from work. Do it on your lunch break, if you're managing to go to work with the meds. Simple practice. It works. It takes your attention off your own crap and turns it outwards towards others. And the cramp, the tsa cramp, which manifests as depression, will relax and release itself over time. Give it a try if you need it. Even if someone out of strong desire steals all your wealth or has it stolen, dedicate to him your body, possessions, and your virtue past, present, and future. This is the practice of the Bodhisattvas. Look, when somebody steals your bicycle, you're not going to get it back. You know that. They just go. You get another one, they go. They're all in the canals. So if somebody steals your bicycle, give them your friggin' bicycle. Turn it into a gewa. If somebody steals your money, scams your bank account, you're not going to get it back. Give them the money. This is the practice of a bodhisattva, and offer them your gewa that you're creating by giving them the money to compensate for the digpa of they thought they were stealing it, but it was a gift. It's your kid. What are you going to do when your kid steals 20 bucks from your wallet? You're going to yell. You may ground them, but you're not going to hate them. You're going to do what's going to be best for them. Whatever you think that is in the moment, because they're your kid, right? So when somebody steals your stuff, do what you think is best for them. Now, it's better here. In Holland, going to jail for a while is really okay. They don't kill you. In America, don't turn anybody into the cops, they'll kill them. They kill you in jail. It's bad. I hear the same in Russia. It's bad. So if you're gonna turn somebody into the cops for their own good because they gotta learn to do better, look at what country you're in and what the cops are gonna do. Make a judgment call. What is best for them? This is the path of a bodhisattva. Revenge is not the path of a bodhisattva. Even if someone tries to cut off your head when you haven't done the slightest thing wrong, out of compassion, take their misdeeds upon yourself. This is the practice of a bodhisattva. That's a hard one to do when someone's got a knife to your throat. It's easier when you're really old or when you're a teenager. It's hard to do in the middle of life. Teenagers don't care. They're so crazy. Or a lot of them don't care if they live, if they die, if what happens, as long as it's exciting. Remember those hormones? And when you're really old, you know you haven't got long anyway, so what the heck? It's as good a day as any. But in the middle, this is really hard. So let me remind you about common sense. In all teachings for Tibetans, common sense is presumed. It goes without saying. That's what they have instead of guide rails, guardrails, banisters on the stairs. Common sense. If you don't think you can make it up or down those stairs standing, get down on your hands and knees and do it. Common sense. You see, any Tibetan without common sense does not survive a wind chill factor of 30 below in the winter. It is not easy to stay alive there. It requires considerable effort. You have to change the grass in your shoes. You pad the bottoms of your shoes with grass as insulation, but your feet sweat, and if they get damp and freeze, you're dead. Frostbite kills you because you can't go on. You get left behind and you're dead. Your horse going lame kills you. You can't go on. If you can't go on, you're dead. So checking your horse's hooves, changing the grass in your shoes, and being damn careful on the track is one of those goes without saying for Tibetans. So they don't tell you that. Every Tibetan teaching goes with common sense. It's like the teaching of the mantra that protects against contagion goes with the mask, not instead of the mask. The one that protects against viruses and contagion, in the case of AIDS, it goes with the condom. It keeps the condom from breaking. It's not to be used instead of the condom, guys. We lost a whole center to that misunderstanding. Don't do it. With the condom, not instead of the condom. So, common sense in this one. That doesn't mean don't run away. If someone wants to cut off your head, just stand there. Sure, you can make a big offering of your life. Like the guy who offered his body to the starving tiger. But you at least want a starving tiger with cubs as a reason. Not just some guy who wants to get high. Give me your wallet. Do you see where the common sense comes in on this? Yes, it might mess up your death process a little if you give away your heart and lungs on your driver's license. But I've got mine down, if they're viable. I'll catch up in the bardo. Even if I miss Tudom in the first bardo, I'll just catch up later. Do what you can, not what you can't. Even if somebody broadcasts all kind of unpleasant remarks about you throughout the 3,000 words, in return with a loving mind, speak of their good qualities. This is the practice of Bodhisattva. You want to practice this one? Go out on social media and say something controversial. And then say nice things about the trolls. Anyone who has the courage to try that, let me know how it feels. I bet you're going to feel really interestingly good afterwards. If you can pull it off, please don't try this if you don't think you can do it. If your attention is on others, not on yourself, it's so relaxing. All the stressors are about how do I look? Who do people think I am? What do they think I am? How am I going to get this? How am I going to do that? I is a cause for stress. Stress is stigma. Don't pass it on. Relax. Turn your attention outwards. Even if a person for who you've cared, your ex, regards you as an enemy, sometimes your teenager, usually your teenager. Cherish them, especially like a mother whose child is stricken by hormones. This is the practice of a bodhisattva. I translated that a little bit more into Western for you. That's not what the text said. All beings do harm by being self-focused on their own gain. On what makes them feel better and bigger, except they're confused. They don't know what will make them feel better and bigger. They're guessing. Oh, if I put all those other people down, I'll feel bigger than them. Oh, if I get more money by stressing at this terrible job where my boss hates me, then I'll feel better about myself. Actually, you probably won't. All of this continuously. Let it go. If an equal or inferior person, someone you believe to be inferior, below you in status, uneducated, whatever you hold to be status making, disparages you out of pride, place them as you would your spiritual teacher, with respect on the crown of your head. This is the practice of bodhisattvas. Okay, we're about halfway through. I'm going to stop here and ask if there's any questions on what we've talked about so far.
This, concerning this all sentient beings will
The people can't hear you.
concerning that all sentient beings have been my children, my mothers. I find it really hard to work with that at work, because I do have to, but there are situations where you basically have to harm beings to get.
Example.
We have plants and they are full of lice. So if I cut the plants, the lice, whatever I do to save the plants, the lice will at least suffer. I try to only make them suffer and not die. So, what's a
So
good way
these
to do
things
that?
occur.
Is that also common sense that needs to be applied?
Yes. But also, we are imperfect bodhisattvas. If we were perfect, we wouldn't need to try to practice Bodhicitta. It wouldn't be a practice anymore, it would be actualized. For us, it's a practice. So, what you can do when you must kill. For example, if you have a serious infection, you have to take antibiotics, which will kill the bacteria. This doesn't work on viruses who probably aren't alive, but bacteria are, and we don't know about viruses. Bacteria have preferences. If you put a drop of alcohol on in the slide, they move away from it. And if you put a drop of glucose, they move towards it. Therefore, they have preferences. The definition of a sentient being is something which has aversion and attraction. So we can be pretty sure bacteria does. Plants do, but it works differently for them. They don't suffer from the illusion of singularity. An entire forest is as much thinks it's an entity as a tree does. It's different. So they experience karma completely differently. It's the mobile sentient beings, and they experience aversion and attraction differently. Plants. But bacteria behave more like animals. Yeast, I'm not sure. Somewhere borderline in there. Fungus is definitely more like animals. Mycella can be quite intelligent if it's big enough. I got digressing. So within all of this, what was the part that was oh, got it. I'm old. Forgive me for losing track of what I'm saying. So what you do is you say manis, or you say Om Ami Dewa Shri, which is the mantra of Amitabha, light beyond compare, which itself is the symbol of the innate vitality of Buddha nature, the aliveness of the stillness that doesn't come and go. So either of those mantras, while you do what you must by common sense, accepting that you are creating a digpa, Vajrasattva in the evenings. To do Vajrasattva, you're best off, it's most effective when just before you do it, you think of what you did that might be digpa during the day. You at least sub-vocalize it to yourself. You regret it. You can regret it was necessary, such as antibiotics. That's a regret. I regret that this was necessary in the circumstances that I believe to have found myself in. And then you say the mantra. As long as it's got the three pieces, recognizing the error, and a regret for the error. Oh, there's a third piece. You have to decide to avoid that error in future if you can. If you can. Remember, you gotta hedge it. You gotta keep the common sense going. Sometimes, as a doctor, you will kill. Antibiotics. Anti-parasites. You know, deworm the kid, deworm the dog. You're gonna kill. You got termites, you gotta deal with it if you have a wooden house. Regret. You can regret its necessity, but regret. Method. Vajrasattva. Decide to hope you won't have to do that again. Decide to look for other alternatives in future. You may not find one as you didn't this time, but at least keep your eye out. That makes sense.
Because I've also noticed doing the mantras that I discovered I actually do them to get rid of this uncomfortable feeling in myself rather than to help those sentient beings. That was kind of a big discovery, I must admit. So how can I...
Oh, that's easy. Before you do the mantra, you make a wish. May all sentient beings benefit from this. Even though you have a feeling that you want to get rid of the crap in yourself, the crappy feeling, you're overlaying the wish. And if you use your speech chakra for the wish, it will override what is just a feeling. There's a power of intent. This is the chakra of intent. Things said or at least sub-vocalized, where you wiggle your speech chakra with it, will override a simple feeling. Manlam is done with the speech chakra. It won't work without. Manlam is wish path. It's what people translate as prayer. It's not quite the same. So decide that. And then, even though you may feel otherwise, say that as a wish. And when you're done, make another wish for the same thing. May whatever benefit has arisen by this action go to benefit all living beings. Really simple. That will override the other bit. We are sentient beings. We will be self-focused. This will help us to mitigate that. Other questions?
You said that
Louder.
you said that gods are real. In what sense do you use real in that context?
There are beings that exist in this world but are not visible to you in the limited range of what you can see, of what light you can see. It's a very limited range of light wavelengths, of colors. You can't see in the ultraviolet, you can't see in the infrared. What you can hear, again, very limited as a Homo sapien, what you can hear, smell, compared to a dog, you're extremely limited. So there are beings which are not visible, audible to our usual senses. Some are too big, some are too small, some reflect different light. Some have a great deal of abilities and powers, perhaps a high technology. We call those gods, if we like their agenda. We call those devils if we don't like their agenda. And then there's little ones around. Look, you can't see a bacteria, but they will affect you. You litter in a Naga's home and it will affect you. So Nagas are some of the little ones. Nagas are human realm. They're pretty much like people. There's other things. We call them angels and demons. All sorts of kinds. These are all sentient beings. Actually, we don't call them demons, we call them Dri, which is the only kind of demon that is actually sentient. They're critters. They live in the forests, in the in-between places. You don't want to offend them, they bite. But you don't want to offend a porcupine either. So this is what I'm talking about. I think I would include bacteria, some kinds as demons and some kinds as angels. I mean, you can't see them with your eyes. You can't hear them with your ears or smell them or taste them. You can't find them with your sense organs. And some kinds, you don't like their agenda because it's to eat you. Other kinds, you like their agenda because they help decay your garbage. They make yogurt, yeah, or beer, although that's yeast for the beer. So, yeah, I call those gods and demons. You catch little gods to make your yogurt. Not gods, you catch little angels to make your yogurt.
Slavery.
Actually, I'd say it's an exchange. They get to eat it.
I always like calling a sourdough culture the mother.
Yeah.
When I made sourdough, what was that? It labeled as the mother in the fridge. It's very nice.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good friend.
Oh, sourdough cultures are good friends.
Yeah.
They end up being a relative. They go on for a few generations. Sorry, from San Francisco. We keep our sourdough cultures a long time. You had a question.
When we start our practice, we take refuge and arise, rose, arise, Bodhicitta. So my question is, what, and I guess this is obvious, I think this is a way to support our practice, to do this, to have a good foundation for our practice to start out in this way.
Yes.
So I would like to ask you, in which way do you regard Bodhicitta as a support for a sexual practice? Myself, I feel it supports the feeling of expansion, warmth, relaxation, and this is what it's. But what would you?
Trekchö without Bodhicitta will easily fall into nihilism. Oops. And you don't want it to do that. If you try Trekchö without even a erg of Bodhicitta, you'll end up with a big dark old nun. A lot of people see that first. Because they haven't trained in Bodhicitta, they don't recognize the interconnectedness of all life, of all mind. And so they go solitary into Trekchö. There is a critter in Tibetan worldview that lives on the cliff below the edge of the earth. And they're solitary. They never see another one of themselves. They lay eggs. There's not two genders. They don't need each other to mate. If one sees another one, they eat them. or they fight until one eats the other. They have no awareness. They don't have sight as a sense organ because it's too dark there for it to work. Just touch, where they feel the wall and they climb about upside down on the walls. It's very cold there. They're like bats almost in shape, but without the wings because they don't fly. Fall into nihilism, and that's one of the dangers of your rebirth. Bodhicitta is important. Wait a minute, I did you already. Well, let me check over here and then I'll come back. Oh, I keep missing you because you're in the back.
No, I just done you so you didn't miss me. I want to ask how we can develop Bodhicitta towards some family member which we are not close with and culturally we feel the pressure to be close with, and if we are not able to develop Bodhicitta towards the family member, which kind of karmic consequences it's going to have?
Oh, it's hardest with family members.
Yes, it is.
Practice of patience is what you use with family members. You recognize that they are probably old and set in their ways. They're not going to accept you for who you are. And that's okay. You gotta be, they can't, so that's fine. You accept them for who they are. Take them to tea on Sunday afternoons or whatever it is that they want. Don't try to show them yourself. That's ego. Oh, see me, understand me, look at me. No, make it about them. And see if you can, like once a month or once a whatever is required, give them as a gift an hour. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
That's not so much Bodhicitta as a simple kind deed, and then dedicate the merits after. Consider it a practice. The practice of patience. How wonderful. This is someone who's going to teach you the practice of patience. Think you could do that? Would it work?
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you.
You gave a simple practice for getting outside of yourself if you're depressed. Do you have one for anxiety?
Yes, but it's longer than I can teach right now. It's working with emotions. I recommend you join the online group. And put yourself in for the next retreat on it, which will be online. But basically, it's a matter of not fighting, not shoving the anxiety away. You have to be able to accept that you're going to feel like that. You have to strip it naked of the story about why you're anxious, because it's actually a physical thing. And then you made a story to explain it. And each day the story is going to be different depending on what's looming today. So you realize the story is not real. But you've got to take the name anxiety off it. What's the difference between anxiety and excitement as a sensation in your body? Go find out.
So there's some online questions.
Oh, okay, let me have those.
So first, by spending too much time paying attention to others, I ended up in a burnout. Common sense is to have compassion for myself first.
This is by a woman, isn't it?
I cannot guess. I can ask.
Ask. I'm pretty sure it is, because you see there is this weird training to sabotage yourself by paying attention to others. And Western women are trained to this, so are Tibetan women. You have to overcome that to actually pay attention to others properly. Because it's a funny way of doing it. You're a better person because you take care of others. So It's a double. You're actually trying to feel better about yourself by taking care of others because you've been told that a good woman does this. Hey, or you've been told that a good Buddha does this. And you want to feel good about yourself as a good practitioner. Yeah. So I couldn't.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry, isn't it? I'm sorry.
It's a guy?
I read it. It's a man. I misread it.
Goodness. That's rare on guys. Usually they're taught to take, and the women are taught to give, and this gets out of hand. But culture by culture, it's different in different places. And also, this can be taken wrong. Without common sense, you will drive yourself crazy trying to give and give and give because the rest of the world has been trained to take and take and take. You have to moderate it with common sense. Do not give what you don't have. I was invited to dinner tonight. And after 2 sessions and as jet lagged as I am, I'm not going to have it. I could do it, but then I endanger my body getting sick because I pushed it too far. So I begged off and we've made a rain check. You have to know how to set limits within Bodhicitta. What benefit would it be to any of you if I cause myself sickness to satisfy your momentary desire of having dinner with me? What's the real benefit there? Is there any? No, I'm actually creating digba because the next retreat gets canceled. Or something, if I get COVID again. I think I found the right Chinese meds to keep me from it. Or I end up teaching from a balcony like I did last time I got COVID. Shouting down at Joe. So you really gotta set limits where limits need to be. Don't drive yourself into a breakdown. There is no virtue in causing harm to yourself. Look what you made me do. Please watch out for look what you made me do. Ow, yeah. If you are conditioned as a woman to care for others to your own damage, you're going to have to get over that first before you can do this clean. And that conditioning is rampant in many cultures. Not in all, in many. I don't see it that bad here in Holland. Oh, not compared to some other places I've been. The Kanoris, those nuns have escaped from the most amazing, the ones that are building the Gompa, from the most amazing misogynist situations. There's people with dents in their skull from husband beatings before they escaped, who were forced married at 14, ran away 6 times before they managed to get out and join the Nunnery. It's a safe place for women escaping from one of the most misogynist cultures I've ever seen. We tried to teach them martial arts for their protection. They couldn't hit. And this was women teaching. You know, how to throw a punch if you have to fight off a guy who's trying to rape you. So deeply conditioned. They're working it out. They're schlepping the cement and they're building this monastery and they're telling the Indian workers who are coming to help you have to hire a mystery for certain work that's like bricklaying because they don't have the skill. A mystery is what they call a skilled craftsman. And they're telling them what to do and they're being hard on them if they don't do it. I mean, they're really coming up. It's been amazing to watch. These timid little gigglers being able to fire an Indian workman who didn't work well. If they can overcome it, you can overcome it. Now there's one exception, babies in the first 6 months of their life. You gotta give them what they need, and that takes everything you fucking got and then some. By the time they're eating solid food, you don't have to do that anymore. You can share it with others, you can stick them someplace. It's only when they're really little and on the tip. You can wean them by a year if you have to. But that's the only exception where you really have to give yourself away to a newborn. And even decent fathers find they're giving themselves away to the newborn, those who are into fathering rather than into paying somebody to mother for them, because they go to work. Did I answer that question? What, did you have another from out there?
Does a teacher create dikva if they disparage their students?
Yup.
Let me repeat. Does a teacher create dikva if they disparage their students?
Yup. If a teacher tells a funny joke where nobody has a clue who it was, as an example in teaching, that's not disparaging the student who actually performed the funny action. That's using the story of their action as a teaching tool, such as the way we use the story of Naropa as a teaching tool about jumping off roofs. However, to say, I am, that goddamn idiot. Do you know what they actually did? That Joe, he's such a bastard, that Joe. Do you know what he did to me? That's disparaging. Get the difference. Now, sometimes a teacher's they're gonna be so pissed off. I remember a time with Rinpoche. He had been building a monastery for Zigar Rinpoche because Karmapa, the 17th Karmapa, told him to, and that's not a guy you can say no to if any of you remember the 16th Karmapa. You just can't. So he's building this monastery. They're out of money. So he's traveling in the West with me. And he's managing all this by phone in the evening. So, and he had it set up, he said, he told them where to build the toilets over, at a place. And they said, no, it's going to be easier plumbing-wise and cheaper if we build them over there. He said, you can't build them over there because the Indians have a sacred tree there. And they're going to get upset, and we don't need the local Indian religious groups upset. So that's why we're going to build it over here. And then he comes traveling with me, and it's all set up. He gets a phone call. Oh, I see, you built it by the tree. And the Indians are upset at you now. And it looks like a mob is going to come after you. I see. I did say not to build it by the tree and to build it over there. You do recall that. And you can imagine the other end of it. Well, yes, but what do we do now? Okay, take it down. Move it. Put it over by the tree. But we don't have any money left. I'll send you some money. Move it away from the tree. Put it where I told you to put it. I'll send you more money to do that. Click. Dead silence for a minute. You know what those stupid idiots did? Now, I know who these guys are. I'm from Zolpema. I know these guys who he's talking about. It's not like, do you know what they did? And he goes through the whole thing. As a rant, he stops in the middle and turns to me and says, of course you and I know that this is pure Nam talk. And we know the nature of Nam talk, and we know that it's nothing but emptiness arising in emptiness, but nonetheless, you don't I swear he went through it 3 times before he ran down. And it wasn't, they wasted a lot of money, and it wasn't like he was having an easy time getting money. Traveling's hard. He was old. Well, not that old by then. He was younger than I am now. So, it'll happen. Somebody will do something stupid enough that you'll rant. That's why you do Vajrasattva. But yes, disparaging students is considered a no-no. And it does happen occasionally. It shouldn't. Oops. Any more out there? We're good. Okay. I'll get you before, then I'll get you back again.
Maybe it's off topic, but we'd like to know more about the Napa vows.
There aren't specific Napa vows. It's tantric vows. You receive them anytime you attend a wall of the higher tantras, yoga tantra and above.
So when are you allowed to wear those Napa clothes?
When you decide that your purpose in life is Dharma, not raising a family. You might incidentally have a family, but it's not what you think you're for. And it behoves you, if you're going to wear them, to know what the tantric precepts are. I have done teachings on them, and there will be more. I gotta send you that stuff. Okay, I'll give you a quickie and then we're done.
I noticed that in some way you're very easy with things and doesn't matter, but then suddenly you say when you quarrel with your partner, then you can be reborn in a family for a whole life.
Yeah.
So in one way you must be very precise in your action, because it can have very big consequences.
Well, I would be, except my personality is not very precise, so I do all sorts of weird shit.
You're not afraid?
No. I do Vajrasattva.
That will fix everything.
It will fix the day's oopsies. And seriously, you have to be really aware of karma and how it works.
Mm-hmm.
You will create digpa in your daily life. Minimize it.
Yeah.
Create as much gewa as you possibly can. Do your best. That's all any of us can do, and hope that the balance is in the form of gewa and open-hearted, great-heartedness and expansiveness, without attempting to believe you're perfect. Only the Buddha, the fully enlightened, those who have gone beyond form, beyond time and space, may be considered perfect. I'm still rattling around in here with the rest of you. I'm at one of the most traditional lamas you'll ever meet. Yes, I express things in Western analogies, in Western ways, but I stick extremely close to the pure Nagpa tradition. Otherwise, I wouldn't have Tibetan students. They wouldn't accept that. Tibetans don't charge for teachings. it's not done. I've had even Tibetans come to teachings I've given in the West sometimes because I follow the traditional method. I change my teaching style. I stick in a bunch of quotes if I see any in the audience. We are complete. We'll be back this afternoon.